Hi, I'm Wade from Superior Slushies, and today we're going to do a short video on how to do a service, an annual service on your slush machine. One of the first things that you want to check is the bowl position. Now, what we're talking about here is the bowl sitting in the right place on the machine? And it might seem like a strange thing to say, but particularly in the party hire industry, where machines are being moved around a lot, occasionally dropped, and generally treated not quite as well as you would if it was your own machine, machines can start getting loose in the way that they're framed together. So making sure everything's tight and all in line is a critical way to making sure that your machine doesn't leak. So with this machine, we're just going to take the bowl off the machine and just have a look to make sure everything's nice and tight. So just by twisting that bowl, we'll break the seal off it and take it off. This is a machine with a magnetic drive system. So one of the differences is you've got an internal and an external auger. But we've covered this in one of our other videos. What you want to look at is how is the bowl going to sit against that rear seal. So as you can see there's some movement. Now that movement could be just that millimetre enough for that bowl to just sit away from that rear seal. And that is catastrophic for you because it's going to leak. Not only is it going to make a mess, but you're going to lose some of your product as well. So in that situation, you want to look at how is this machine assembled. Now, in this particular case on this machine, it's got internal screws from underneath the machine. You might not be comfortable doing this, but I'm going to tell you what's involved anyway. So in this case, you take off the rear side to the machine, probably the back as well, find the screws that this whole assembly, or what we call the evaporator mount, attaches to, tighten those screws up so as it doesn't move anymore. Once it doesn't move and you're sure that it's in the right position, then you know you've adjusted that particular thing. The next step is going to be replacing your rear seal. So slip the rear seal off, and what you need to do is chuck it away. It's time to buy a new one. That way you're going to have less problems during the course of the year. And for such a small amount of money, less problems are certainly worth it. The next point is your tap. In this case, this tap has got two O-rings. You might have just one plunger, you might have an O-ring and a plunger, you might have a tap mechanism that's just got a silicone plunger. Whatever it is, whatever that part is, it's time to replace them. Again, for not a lot of money, you're going to get rid of a lot of potential headaches. A leaking tap is just an annoyance. You're going to have a situation where you're going to have a drip tray that's always full, and it's just a waste. So now it's time to remove the O-ring. So simply take it off. You may want to use a picker, which is just a little device with a hook on it. You might want to use a knife. That way you know that once you've used the knife, you've probably damaged it anyway, or maybe a fingernail. So get those and throw them away. Now with your new O-ring, you're simply going to place it over the top of your tap and roll it on. It's really that simple. So the two things that you need to change is those consumable items, the rear seal and any seals that are involved in your tap setup. The next thing that you want to do annually is change the shaft bushings. This particular machine doesn't have any. So next we'll swap to another machine so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Here we've got a standard machine with a shaft. That plastic surround which we've talked about before is the shaft bushing. It's made from nylon in most cases, occasionally a silicone rubber, and that does wear. So why would you change it? It's simple. It's closing the gap in between the shaft and the evaporator unit. It's preventing liquid from getting into that evaporator unit, which is either going to spill through the back of the machine internally, or generally it may also cause corrosion inside. Once you've got corrosion inside your evaporator, you end up with a hole. A hole means a gas leak means repair bills. So that silicone grease and that shaft bushing are your first line of defense to make sure you're not spending money that you don't need to. To remove that, you can use a pick to get it out, but it may be difficult. What you might need to do is to remove the gearbox to be able to slide the shaft out. And I'll show you how to do that. So to remove the gearbox, take off your rear cover and then just simply slide it out. If you can get someone to help you hold on at the same time, you can then push the shaft flush and it'll pop back through on this side. When you're lining up the shaft to reassemble it, remember that there's a definite half circle on the shaft, which once you've removed the bushing, it's just a matter, again, if the shaft's not in place, and it does slide backwards and forwards as we've gone through, is then just pushing it back and making sure it's flush and home. Again, it's just one of those small things to do with a very small cost that you might overlook because you think, oh, it's a little bit too hard, but it will save you money in the long term. And finally, I want to touch on the importance of using a food grade silicone grease. We sell these on our website, but you can buy different brands. We've stuck with this particular brand. It's made in America, and they also manufacture for most major brands, which includes a lot of ice cream making equipment, as well as slush machines. It is the one that you probably should use. Using this grease is going to stop your O-rings from tearing, stop your tap mechanisms from leaking, and making sure that you keep liquid out of your evaporator units. It's really critical and it's so cheap for an insurance policy. So definitely use that. Now just recapping, we've changed all of our seals on our machine. We've made sure that our bowl position is correct. And what we also need to do is remove our side panel and check our condenser unit. Give it a clean, make sure it's nice, don't bend the fins. So that concludes how to do an annual service. It's really not that difficult and it's not that time consuming, but it will save you a lot in the long run.